You're watching your local television network, TSPN. And now, authors, writers, books, and beyond. This program also streams live on the web at tspntv.com and can be watched on demand at tspntv.com or TSPN TV's YouTube channel. And now, authors, writers, books, and beyond.
Hi, welcome back. This is the April Authors, Writers, Books, and Beyond show, and this month we're celebrating poetry. Wonderful genre. I have special guests today to share with you. Monika Rose, friend of mine from Manzanita Press. She's actually my editor. And my friend Denella Kimura goes way back to Sacramento Christian Writing Days where we first met. 2.5 decades ago. So I'd like to open up with introducing them and asking them to give you just a little tidbit taste of how they got the poetry bug. Monika, can you start?
I actually got started, I was going to tell you, writing on bathroom walls in high school, but no, that wasn't exactly how. At college, actually, I took some courses and got excited. I went to Long Beach State.
I was going to ask what college.
Yeah, and so I took, just for the heck of it, a couple of poetry writing classes. I was an English major and a drama major, double major, and I just got hooked.
Was there a specific professor that influenced you?
Elliot Freed, I guess he's probably dead by now. Gerald Laughlin was wild. Cover of his book, he was naked in a bathtub. That was the cover of his book, and I said, that's quite interesting. And so, but influences way back to my high school studies. William Carlos Williams, when I had to memorize a poem, the easy one. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens.
Wow.
Now you can reverse that. So much depends upon the white chickens glazed with rainwater sitting in the wheelbarrow. But it doesn't have the same effect.
Interesting. Yeah. What about you, Denella?
Well, I first got my writing bug for poetry in the 8th grade when I wrote my first poem and surprised myself. And reread it again about a month ago and thought, oh, that was a good first effort. But it was always in me through high school and through college days. And when I had met my husband, I had taught a class at a local church. They took a bunch of kids to Vacation Bible School and during Christmas time, and they all sang to the senior citizens in a nursing home. And on the way home, the poem started going through my head, and I was driving on the freeway trying to figure out how in the world I was going to write this down fast enough so I wouldn't forget it. So as I was going down the freeway, I would memorize the thing. Well, it turned out I got home, wrote it down, and thought, wouldn't this be a great poem to submit to the local newspaper? Had a Poets Corner, and I thought, well, Christmas and the seniors and kids, and it turned out that, yes, it was published, but not by Christmas. They saved it for Mother's Day. And from then on, I had met my husband, as I said, and we got married shortly after that, and he never knew what he got into.
They never do they? Those poor unsuspecting spouses that are out in the other room.
Yes, and mine said, I'd love to go to your next poetry reading, but haven't I been to enough? Don't I know all your work already? So he slides out of it sometimes.
Yeah, they kind of know it by heart almost by now themselves.
Mm-hmm. Huh? And he corrects me after if I'm ever filmed, so I know he's going to do this.
Oh, yes, the critique?
Oh, yes, he does. He said, don't do this after you read. And I thought, I don't even know I'm doing it. Right. So I've been very cautious. I'll probably do something else.
Yeah, that's actually kind of something we haven't talked in any of the writing shows is the spouses, because they go to a lot of the reads with us and the book signings, and sometimes they go happily. I think sometimes they go a little begrudgingly because they've been to so many over the years. But they're kind of our back support. They have our backs.
Yeah.
And they do honestly critique, don't they?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Some good comments.
Sometimes Joe actually will pick my out-of-tone word,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of surprises me for a Louis L'Amour Western, Tom Clancy type of guy. But, they hear it often enough, they develop the same ear, especially, I think, for a spouse. I don't think they critique, like your husband wouldn't critique my work the way yours would yours. I'd like you to each read a little poem first for everybody, if you don't mind. Whatever excites you most to share.
Well, I can read a couple of small haiku. They're called haiku-like.
Can you tell them what book it is?
And this is from I should look at this with the sticky notes. It's so terrible. Here's the clean one. It's River by the Glass, and it's a full-length collection of my work over the last couple of decades. And there are about 3 chapbooks in there worth, at least, of work. And so it's fully collected. You can get it. You can get it as an ebook too, if you would like the color photos. But anyway, haiku-like. This is just a few little short haikus, but they're not really haiku. They're haiku-like. The brown hills of the motherlode are tight-fisted hands with hidden rings. The smell of sunburned grass in the evening, my nostrils make tornadoes sweeping across the field. This one's called Pay-Per-View. The television in the creek presents an ecological episode. A squirrel watches himself in the glass, preening in mere black and white. And the last one in the series, Black Cloud. 50 vultures gathered together to migrate this morning. Must be a lack of sustenance here at the River of Skulls.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
What do you want to share?
I have the Eagle song. Mine usually tell a story. This is true. I have a picture of this where the Anasazi Indians, cave dwellers, did an eagle dance, and the eagle is always shown in the shadow. You don't quite see it from the audience perspective. So this is the Eagle song.
Okay.
Heat shimmers white on the hard concrete dance floor, surrounded by spectators perched on rocks and benches under the Anasazi cave walls, where flute, drum, and rattle pound the beat of his feet, leaping in feather cloud moccasins. He danced the eagle, shadow-mirrored in beaked headdress, circled tail feathers, with upraised feathered arms, spinning, leaping, and screeching. His eagle shadow soared under the blue dome sky. His brown eyes laughing, he called for mercy on the people, on the land, for rain. If it rains, don't blame me, he says. Don't blame the eagle. Blame the one whose praises we dance and sing. Blame God. The next day, it rained.
That's a story. You guys came from it from kind of a very different vantage point with the haiku-like. Can you explain to the listeners the difference, a haiku-like as opposed to haiku?
Well, haiku in Japanese will have a different sound. It will have a different meaning. The syllables are 5-7-5, but in English we can never quite get the feeling of that snapshot moment in those syllables without, trying to be, I guess, imitative, and it's not quite the same. So it's always haiku-like in English translations.
Thank you.
Even so.
Well, I was going to share a poem before we go to break. Poetry and song lyrics is actually how I started. And so this is short. This is called All I Need. And I call it a shape poem from the way I presented the words in writing. You are all I need, leading me, filling me, lighting the way, ahead of me, calling my name. You're always the same. To the cross you came for me. Ever faithful, ever gentle, ever available, encouraging me with your promises, with joy everlasting, in pure and unconditional love. Your arms reach out, how could I ever doubt? Yet I stumble and fall while you give your all. Help me to receive and not your spirit grieve the gift of eternal life as you breathe in the incense of my prayers. So, they can kind of see we're all telling a different story in a different way.
I think poems are mainly narrative. It comes from a narrative past, the epic and dancing around a fire and telling how the hunt went. Or
that original storytelling before it could be written down.
Yeah.
That really brings to mind what you just read.
Yeah, they were celebrating a ritual that was very ancient and old, and yet it celebrated something we can all identify with.
Always a form of communication with which to reach other people with what's in your heart. It's another sharing of the heart, like fiction, nonfiction, even music or art. It's a sharing of the heart. We use different words, and in poetry, I've heard so many writers say, but I could never write a poem. Some people are more interested in the rhyme and meter scheme, and yet there's free verse that leaves a lot open. So I'm hoping when we come back into the next segment, you ladies can dig a little into that and share some different types that you've written. I know Denella has a lot of her books, and I'd love to hear more of your book. So for now, we're going to say bye. See you in a little bit.
Thank you.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
And welcome back from break. Monika and Denella and I are back here to greet you with more poetry, kind of serenade you in a musical, lyrical way. It has a very set rhythm to it. So I'm going to start with Monika and ask her to read a little different type of poetry and tell you about that.
Yeah, here's a pairing of two poems, and you can do this if you like. Try to take a poem that you've written or a piece of prose and then write it as a sonnet. And so I've got two of them here. They're very similar in content. The first one's called Father, and the other one's called The Fish. Same content with variations. What I did was I noticed, this is an older poem, the one called Father, and I noticed that the words prenatal, parental, and paternal all have the same letters, and so I played with that. And so the three sections, the first one is prenatal. He watched from the outside as I swam inside, the breaststroke, the crawl. He watched as I swam out, wriggled, gasped, choked. Parental. This is the crawl, he spoke, the fastest stroke. Kick your legs, pull your arms, cup your hands. This is the breaststroke. Push out from the heart. This is the butterfly. Unfold your wings. This is the backstroke. Retreat sometimes. And paternal. My father the fish taught me how to stroke ripples, blow bubbles, gulp quickly, push away, and swim back. Now that's a free verse, but you can see there's some rhyme, internal rhyme in there. Now this one's a sonnet. Took the same poem, slimmed it down to 14 lines, and met that Shakespearean sonnet form. My father, it's called The Fish, my father taught me how to swim to life. He must have seen my sudden fetal crawl, my body slicing membranes like a knife, while gasping, choking, wriggling in the squall. How I kicked my legs and broke his world, beginning struggle at an early stroke, and like a butterfly in flight unfurled to wings of infant innocence, he spoke. Push off the heart, he warned when leaving home, and turn like silver, lest you lose retreat. Keep moving under water and its foam, so journey take you back where all ends meet. The backstroke takes you far into the start. The breaststroke brings you back into your heart.
Beautiful.
So different way to do
too.
it. You have the rhythm and you've got the rhyme. It's not exactly identical. You've got a little leeway with the free verse. And
that's nice.
Mm-hmm. So just something to try. Try.
Do you think anybody could try and write a poem?
I think so. I think the easy way is to write down your ideas in your journal when you're thinking of things deeply, let your mind go, and then go back and circle the words and the phrases that you love and write those down and then work that into a poem. And that's a neat technique people don't always think of when your mind is wandering and you're writing things down that are fresh and have hit you a certain way and you're thinking of it. And then that's one way to do that.
That's a good
little
idea.
exercise.
And you both teach. We'll get into that later. But that's a good thing for the listener to keep in mind that's curious about it. A lot of people have it in their heart or their head, but they don't know how to get it down on the paper.
It's daunting.
It is. Denella, could you share?
Well, most people, when they first start writing poetry, usually start with rhyme and meter. And the problem with that is we learn our nursery rhymes, and that sort of teaches us the basics of internal rhyme and meter as we see it. But they become cliches or overworked sometimes, and really good rhyme and meter is hard to do.
It really is.
As I think it's most difficult to do. So the first one I'm going to do is from Alma, and she was a little white-haired, fluffy little lady who had a musical quality to her voice, and she bounced along as she walked. So the rhythm of this poem, even though it's rhymed and metered, picks up on her personal rhythm that I experienced her. And it's called Alma's Errands. Have you ever had trouble getting your grandmother out of the house? Look for the newspaper, cold, misty dawn, reading Dear Abby and news that goes on. Do all the puzzles, read Charlie Brown, sip hot tea in her robe and nightgown, answering phone call. Hi, Grammy. I'm fine. What are you doing, grandmother mine? I'm taking a walk down the hill to the store to buy me some vitamins before this downpour. 8:30. I'm dropping the kids at the school. Then I can go buy me some vitamins too. I know. I'll come by and we'll do it together. Then we can be finished before this bad weather. I'm so glad you thought of it. I know what we'll do. We'll go by the bank and the grocery store too. So hop in the shower, then slip into clothes, a pantsuit that matches her blouse and her hose, with earrings and brooch on a tie at her throat, and soft white beret lest her curls go astray. She's ready to go now. She'll just check the mail, get her coat from the closet, leave a note on the nail, pat her hair in the mirror, go out of the door, just when she remembers. Check the stove fires once more. We can have fun now. Oh, don't have to worry. Now there are raindrops. We'll just have to hurry.
Oh, sweet. I can relate. I don't know about you.
Yeah. And then there's another one that is kind of a talking poem. It's based on the rhythm of communication of speech. And the one I'm looking for, I had a second ago, has to do with going to visit my great aunt, who's Alma's older sister, and listening to them communicate with each other without either one of them finishing sentences. And
wow, that's interesting.
yeah, it's interesting because it's called shadow talking. And when you listen to singers who know that they've lived all their lives together, the two sisters, they know each other so well, they know the story before it's even told. So this is how the story came out. When Alma and I saw Aunt Grace, who was over 90, in the nursing home, they shared half sentences that made a whole thought pattern. Alma found clues from the past and shared experiences that told a story. Now Grace is saying one, Graham's saying the other. Green meadows walking, behind San Quentin. Hill flowers climbed, up to the pond. Eden ate, and I was 6. Eden, Shaw, my best friend. Pond dancing, playing hide and seek. Long dresses tangled my legs. You fell head first, and Eden pulled me out by my feet. Eden saved my life, not knowing Alma'd have Alzheimer's too.
Oh,
So-
and you know, that's a sad area with the
Yeah, it is.
loss of memory. What a beautiful way to talk about it.
Yeah, it's sometimes they lose their memory because they lose touch of the things that remind them of the past. And Grace had done that. She had lost touch of the past, and eventually Alma did too.
Both sisters did.
Yeah, both sisters. Yeah, well, I don't know whether you call it Alzheimer's or dementia, but that was certainly the pattern they had.
So did they go further back into their childhood?
Yeah, this was when Alma was 6 and Grace was 8.
Mm.
So, and Eden Shaw was Alma's best friend, and they were just playing tag. Alma fell into this pond that's up on the hill overlooking a town called San Quentin, where they were raised, the town, and she fell into the pond. And in those days, girls wore long dresses,
Yeah.
and you couldn't get yourself out by yourself. So that's what happened.
Wow, that's beautiful. For me, it's personal. My mom has Alzheimer's, and there are 7 daughters that not one child deals with it the same. It's interesting to get it from the sisters' perspectives
Yeah.
that are going through it.
Uh-huh.
Just a beautiful expression of their childlike way. You know, they just have. My mom has a heart full of love, but she's about at her 6th, 7th year, little girl.
My mother-in-law had Alzheimer's, and she could, even though she couldn't talk, one time I visited her and I knew she loved certain songs. And so all the others were just chit-chatting around the table. I said, let's sing. And she lit up like this. She couldn't talk. And we sang "Jesus Loves Me, This I Know," and she could sing every word.
The whole thing.
Yeah, and Amazing Grace, too.
Yeah,
So
it's funny. We have mother-in-laws I had my mother-in-law with dementia and then Alzheimer's, and you'd think she's not paying any attention. She's just sitting there, and then I'm doing a crossword puzzle right next to her, and I just said to myself, "What's a four-letter word for a long distance? Afar." And she just popped out with this. She had not been vocalizing. Afar. Thank you.
Yeah.
You never know.
it's
They're
that
always listening.
subconscious memory, I
Yes.
think, is really amazing. Yeah.
I know my mom just recently, just last week was there singing songs to her, and she doesn't really respond a lot at all anymore, but Lavender's Blue was my favorite as a child. And I sang Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and I don't know, Daisy was her favorite, but when I sang Lavender's Blue, she actually sang Lavender's Blue back, which for me was a treat. So, and there's more and more poetry on that now because it's become so prevalent
And
in our
funding.
society.
And funding coming, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so, because like you said, your mother-in-law heard and responded.
She did.
They're listening. We just don't know what's going on inside there.
Yeah.
And poetry, I think, is a beautiful way to express the heartache of it, too. The heartache for those of us around them that remember the adult. They don't even remember themselves.
And even not just for Alzheimer's patients, but for anyone.
Yeah.
Memory, as slips away.
Even us, huh?
Yeah, and I think poetry will help us remember.
Yeah, I think it's a very strong memory keeper.
We're going to break now, and come and join us because we'll be talking during the break. Thank you for coming back.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Back. I'm here with Monika Rose and Denella Kimura, beautiful poets, just absolutely beautiful. And we are discussing different types of poetry. They're going to talk to you a little bit right now about teaching classes, teaching you how to write poetry. And I'm going to open reading. What Denella ended with is rhyme and meter, which for me is the hardest thing to write. Same thing she said. Mine is a little different than what you just read. And we were discussing during our break about memory loss and Alzheimer's and how poetry is a beautiful expression of the heartache of that. This is a little different. This is titled Mirror Image. A mirror reflection glares back at me as I brush my snowy white crown. Its long brunette tresses now belong, as a youthful smile erases my wayward frown. I reach out, to touch the elusive woman dressed in splashes of colorful weave. Gracefully she gathers her hair up into a bun, pins it in place, and turns to leave. "Wait," I cry out. "Can you see me?" She lingers as if in response, admiring the image only I can see, delicate beauty and renaissance. Emerald green eyes sparkle and dance, filled with a spirit of mischief and fire, telling a story of one who left nothing to chance, diligently pursuing her every desire. Ruby red lips flirtingly kiss the air, as if tonight's young suitor was standing there. Beholding the splendor of her graceful frame, receiving his praise abashedly unashamed. Tears blur the features once clearly defined, faded away with the passage of time. I hang my head slowly, not wanting to see the aged reflection looking back at me. A tired old woman raises her head, hoping the beauty will greet her instead. Eyes clouded and dull gaze longingly, staring deep into the face of reality. She whispers a warning, though the woman has gone, never staying long enough to hear the end of the song. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. The mirror holds images, but it does not tell of the pain. Wrinkles crease the decades of wasted time, spent searching in youth to claim what was mine. I carefully painted a pretty face, wrapped up in the arms of the world's embrace. Walk away from the mirror while you still have the time. Then the beauty within you is what you will find. If you focus on the outward images you see, you'll never be set free of the mirror like me. A little different.
It's nice, though.
Thank you. I would love for you to share, both of you. You just taught up at Castro Valley. Share a little bit about that.
Okay. I taught a class, Poetry Techniques for Poetry and Prose Writers. And what I was doing is going through technique by technique, giving examples of each kind, and then giving them examples and letting them see how you can incorporate poetry techniques into your prose writing. And yeah.
And that's John Drury's Redwood.
Writers. It's Castro Valley Christian Writers Seminars, and it's the last place I taught, but I'm going to teach a similar workshop at the upcoming Tuolumne Writers Retreat in Columbia, California. And last year they had the first one, and this year, well, it's the end of September, last weekend of September.
Okay.
So.
And the Redwood is always February?
Redwood is always February. It's either the third or fourth weekend in February.
You know what? I believe I took a class from you there back in the
did.
90s. And I use something you shared as an example all the time. You read from Steinbeck's Working Days.
Uh-huh.
And how out of his journal that he kept while he was writing The Grapes of Wrath, and you went to his section that said, I'm not really a writer and they're going to find me out. It's a little longer than that, but it just gripped me.
Yeah.
And I've always shared it. And I believe that class was 99. I think it was when Francine Rivers was guest speaker.
Could be. I taught a lot at Mount Hermon Christian Writers Conference in the 90s and a little bit into the 2000s. And then, but I have a teacher's credential from San Francisco State University in English, History, and Political Science, 3 fields. And I have taught, substituted a lot in public schools and private schools, and also taught poetry workshops in poetry in public and private schools, as well as writers' conferences. So
you have a wide range.
A pretty wide range, yeah.
Monika, what about you?
Oh, I'm a teacher too. I teach at Lodi High. I teach English and teach at Delta. I teach composition and usually a couple classes, 1 to 2 classes a year. And I've taught at conferences. And the one coming up, the Gold Rush Writers, I'll be teaching. This will be my 3rd workshop there. And usually it's something like mining the word or, something to do with poetry and prose. This one is directed to prose writers called literary layering.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. It's looking at the etymological reaches that writers should stretch to, and incorporating allusion and symbolism and metaphor into their prose. So it'll be kind of fun. I'll ask them to bring a page or two to share. They're going to be infusing their work with some of the techniques they're going to be learning. We use The Secret Life of Bees. We'll be taking a look at Flannery O'Connor. And we'll also be taking a look at The Great Gatsby, actually, taking a revisiting look. Everybody studied it in high school, but they may not have noticed a few things that I'm going to point out.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
and
so
that's the first weekend in May.
First weekend in May, and a lot of workshops there. And I've taught workshops over the years through our writers group and Manzanita Publishing, also Delta College.
Can you mention the Manzanita Meeting of the Ages, the first one last year?
Yeah, and we're looking at that was a free set of workshops that people loved. We had quite a good turnout. And Kathy, you taught a session there, and we'll hope you come back and do it again, because we're actually members of our own press. We work together.
For Monika.
So we work as a team. But it was really good, and we had some very good workshop
with young
leaders.
people
Maybe
too.
Denella would love to come.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So So it's looking good. It looks like the first weekend in November. We try to get that going again. So anyway, yeah.
Okay, well, I would like you both to share something else from your wide variety of writing. Monika, I was saying during break, she kind of represents our Gold Country area. She historically records it with your poetry.
I do. And I've read this poem at an Arts Council gathering with the membership, and I had a man come up afterwards and tell me that he really loves the tree that I described, and that's the bull pine. And first I'll read the longer version, a little bit longer, and then the short one. Again, this is a pairing of some similar material, and this is kind of a fun thing to do, is take material and then try two different versions of it and see what comes up. This is called Bull Pine in the Window. And basically, if you know the bull pine up here, it's a dry-looking, scrubby pine. They get huge, but they have a tendency to break their limbs at any given moment. And we have some that are actually dying right now up on the hill. And so, we had to cut one down because it was pretty precarious. So the limbs were over our house. And we really, really did struggle with that. So this is a poem sometimes, express problems, conundrums that you have. And so the poems usually should, in the beginning, set up a situation, set up maybe a problem that you're grappling with. And so that's what these two do. It's called, the first one, Bull Pine in the Window. Nothing dangerous will occur here, inside the kitchen, listening tightly for sudden snaps in a passive pastoral. An open crown of a looming gray pine frames wild cucumber and clumps of mule ear that could pass for daisies. Split trunks brush blue ice sky like a loose broom on a winter window, clearing morning crystal. Fingers born in clusters of 3 orchestrate wind with needle precision and string the same size as an entire stand of ponderosa, or a shadowy ravine in an updraft of late afternoon. The Miwok call it ghost pine. Non-Miwok call it the digger, defining backs of bent people who gleaned its base and found just enough sustenance. This bull pine is generous in its offering. Resiny spiked cones shaped like pineapple to roast. Scales open for sustaining seed, sweet kernels like prizes nestled in pairs at the base of each husky segment. First-year cones seal spicy inner cores as sap droplets ooze and harden into rock candy. This landscape leans into worry, as my need is the collection of parts, bark, needle, cone. While ever darker, a shadow hangs above me in balance. One hovering split-trunk limb haunts every bone in my basket. The window for now will hold.
Beautiful.
And then this is a short one. This one's called Bull Pine. Very similar, but a little bit different, a little twist. Just outside the bedroom window, a gray pine determines our space, as 2 limbs lean poised over this frame in a private painting. I think the sky will fall today. My love thinks the tree may fall the other way. There is a curve at this horizon. Doubt does not make love safe, I say. Hope is a thing with needles, he says. As the wind comes, we wager, this way, that way. Even one limb could snap pleasure in two, I warn. He groans and turns, while wind subsides.
Beautiful. We're just beautiful. When we come back from break, Denella's going to read her poetry, and I'd like to share I've had my group Amateur Writers a poetry read at Clark's Corner, and we do a literary read there occasionally, once a year. So join us back and come back, and we'll tell you more about that and other things that you'll find interesting. We're enjoying having you, and I think you will enjoy the rest of the poetry. So long for now.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Welcome back to our final segment of tonight's show on poetry. I'm so happy you're joining Denella and Monika and I. I'm going to mention a couple things. I'd like Monika to talk about the Manzanita Press, the Wine, Cheese, and Chocolate book that's coming out, and Denella's going to read to you, share a little bit about poetry readings. Again, we hold them at Clark's Corner. That's where Amateur Writers holds our poetry and our regular annual literary read. I'm hoping you'll both come November 30th for our read a little of your poetry, maybe something new. We'll see, whatever you feel like. It's a wonderful place to also come and eat dinner and stuff before. So
great food.
Yeah, the food's really good. Get a little hooked on that. Mm-hmm. And some of our groups meet downstairs here at Heine Company. Our nonfiction group meets here. The rest of us meet there. Great atmosphere in both places. Very writer-oriented, I think. Very special. Anyway, getting back into the atmosphere here today, I'd like Denella to share. Is this a different book?
Yes, this is one that we just did with the art and poetry exhibit at Sonora Joe's. Okay. It's during the month of April, which is Poetry Month, mm-hmm. and I suggested, why don't we do art and poetry? I love to do photography, and a lot of the poems that I have fit the pictures that I have, so we put up a whole exhibit just on combining poetry and art. And so this is the book that I put together of all of the 5 people who contributed their art and poetry to this event.
And they have until what day to still go see that?
We're taking it down the afternoon of April 30th.
Okay.
So you can come see it up until then, and after then there'll be a new show. But I wanted to say that a lot of what I do comes out of poetry reading. In 1987, I attended my first poetry reading at the Panama Hotel and realized that's where I needed to be. That just fit everything that I was about. And so I attended poetry readings all over Marin County, where I lived at the time. And out of that came poetry reading at the Panama Hotel, which was my first book. And that opened the door to all the workshops that I taught ever since. But the poems I want to read are from Art and Poetry Exhibit. And this one is The Singing Place. And it's goes with a picture that is a huge oak tree with a foreground of beautiful pink purple wildflowers, and it's the beginning of a poem that has to do with us being God's poem to the world, because when he says we are his workmanship, the word workmanship is poema. We are his poem.
I love that.
Isn't that neat?
Yes.
So this is the beginning of that, and it describes what the picture is. The Singing Place. I walk lonely paths through purple floodplains in wild lupin glory, where hoot owls echo hauntingly through early misty morning light. From oak trees stretching dark green scarves on twisted limbs and a gentle dance of whispering winds courting her mystery from an empty blue dome where no pillar of cloud sings through this desert.
Beautiful.
And because we had talked about, I mentioned Mount Hermon. Mm-hmm. Out in front of Mount Hermon, in front of the bookstore, these 2 beautiful cherry trees, and I happened to catch a picture of it with a backlighted with the sun, afternoon sun.
In full bloom.
In full bloom. And this song goes with that. Mount Hermon is a writers' conference that I was at. And also, all through the year, they have conferences. So, spirit song. Let cherry trees sing and clap their hands in the forests of Mount Hermon. Let them burst into song of praise and joy. In this place, writers find purpose. Musicians raise voices and instruments to glorify your name to the nations. Inspire us, O Lord, through your Spirit. Reveal new language for a praise song of the Creator and his greatness, arrayed in glory. Hallelujah.
Have you sent that to Rachel Williams?
No.
You need to send that to Rachel.
I should.
Oh my goodness, that's absolutely, and that's exactly what those.
That's what they're all about.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
How beautiful. You promise me you're going to send that to Rachel. Seriously. I would buy that poem on a little card there with a picture of the cherry tree.
Oh.
little broadside.
Yeah,
that would be
we'll have to send her
lovely.
the picture
With
with
your
it then. Yeah.
Monika, I brought some of the Manzanita Press books,
yes. hoping
hoping you'll talk about the latest one that's coming out too, and these also.
Well, speaking of readings, and we've had a writers group since 1984. Formed it in Calaveras County and through the Arts Council, and out of that came, the weekly writer meetings, and then a desire to publish. Besides doing workshops and readings, and we formed in 2000. We put this out in 2005, I believe. 2006.
I'll hold this one for you.
This one came out in 2011. I want to say. I'm trying to think. 2010 maybe. 2010. Usually we average every 3 years we put one out. It's a full collection. These are writers from across the United States, and they write about our region, poetry and prose of the Mother Lode and Sierra, and. So anyway, we've been doing this. This is our 6th volume.
That was volume.
This Wild Edges, yeah. So we have another one that probably will come out in a couple of years, but we're very, very busy with our publishing company. And we've published 6 books now, if you include these. And we published Ted Laskin and Dave Self, a collection of his poetry. And we're coming out with another book in about a month and a half.
Ted
Chance is coming out, which is the California horse racing circuit, and a biography of a jockey, actually, that has had a rough life, but very talented jockey, and then what happens to him on the racing circuit. And so it's a nice little piece. So we've got that, and then we have Wine, Cheese, and Chocolate.
Yay!
We've been working so hard on that. We have, let's say, 25 states represented, about 100 different poets and photographers and artists. And we're going to do something unusual with some of the poems. The recipes actually will be poeticized, and so we're going to write some beautiful, sensual, wonderful recipes. They're going to be as luscious to read as they are to cook. So, and we're going to go to some of the top chefs in our region. Brian at Murphy's Hotel has a wonderful little recipe he's going to give us, and we're going to fix it up a little. And so anyway, it should be really beautiful. We're getting wineries to participate, and cheese factories, and
I'll be announcing when that launches on the show for sure.
Yeah, we're hoping for the fall, but as like a good wine,
it takes a while.
Yeah, it takes a while. And we want it perfect. We really want a nice book. So.
Thank you. Well, I am excited to be a part of that journey. This even Wild Edges was an interesting production.
I forgot Glenn's book. And
Glenn. Oh.
Yeah. So Tales Mark Twain would have loved to steal.
And it's great humor. Just absolutely great humor. I tell you, this area is rich. Denella is presently in the Columbia area, Monika upcountry, and I'm local in Ione. And we know each other. Not all the poets do. It's nice to find each other and connect. So keep coming back, and you'll learn more. Monika will be back again sharing about the Wine, Cheese, and Chocolate when it comes out, and we'll be doing various reads and workshops, teaching and sharing, and bringing others on too that were interested in art And not just the books, but the arts, the illustrators, the photography. We have someone in our group named Sarah who is a screenwriter, and I'd like to bring her on board to share. So, and several others. You have a lot of variety coming up here and you can send me suggestions. You can contact me through the station. I spoke with Ed Klein at the Arts Council, and he wants to bring 3 artists on a show. So I'm real excited about the difference that you'll be experiencing with us. And I really would love to get some feedback from you too. So there's a difference in the screenwriting. It's different than writing a novel. We've had novelists on, and I'll have nonfiction coming on. And you have the big Gold Rush Conference May 3rd, 4th, and 5th coming up. Monika's teaching prose. I'll be teaching children's workshop. Then in September, you can go visit Denella. And then again in November, be sure not to forget, mark your calendars for the return of Meeting of the Ages. And then the end of November, the 30th, amateur writers will be doing our annual literary read at Clark's Corner. And you just missed Sarah Luck Pearson's nonfiction, creative nonfiction from Hein & Company. Their beautiful read Monday night. Just lovely, beautiful stories. She's an incredible teacher. You can watch for more of her workshops also. And we all network and build each other up in that we encourage one another and kind of enjoy each other's once in a while we get to party. And that's when the husbands want to be with us. But I like to mention the spouses too before I close for the month of April National Poetry Show, that our husbands are part of our writing. They're more than just, the spouse. They're part of the, I'd say, inspiration and frustration, in all honesty, and part of the gift. If you have the gift, maybe you'd like to learn how to use it. Go to a class. Denella and Monika are wonderful teachers. I remember very well my first class with Denella, and I shared what I came away with. I share it all the time. It's just a gift, and it's meant to be shared. So in closing, ladies, thank you so much. I would love to do this again. And thank you to our camera crew, Alan and Sarah. And we so enjoy having you. I hope you look forward to next month, May. Join us and see what incredible journey we have for you then. So, ladies, in closing, thank you again for coming. And
thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Very much. See you next time. Be sure to tune in. And you can catch us on YouTube too. Just look it up and we'll be there.
And don't forget,
bye, folks.
Manzanita.
Oh, yeah, don't forget.
Website.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TS.